The moment came without warning, the kind that divides a life into before and after. It was early morning in Chicago, when the city still breathed softly. A pale sunrise spilled over Grant Park, turning the grass silver with dew and painting the skyline in quiet gold. Commuter buses rolled past with low engines humming, cyclists cut through the paths, and joggers moved like shadows between the trees. Daniel Carter, a 37-year-old single father and Army veteran, sat on a worn park bench holding a paper cup of coffee that had already gone cold. His eyes followed a city bus as it slowed near the curb, doors hissing open, then closing again. He used to drive convoys overseas, guiding heavy vehicles through dust and danger. Now he guided his mornings carefully, budgeting every dollar, every step, every breath. Daniel lived with his 8-year-old daughter, Emily, in a small apartment on the city's south side. Since losing his job at a warehouse 3 months earlier, mornings had become heavy. Rent notices sat folded in his jacket pocket. His phone buzzed less each day with unanswered job applications. But he still woke Emily with a smile, packed her school lunch, and told her everything would be okay. That morning, as Daniel stood to leave, he heard a voice behind him. "Sir, excuse me, sir." Daniel turned. A woman stood near the park path, her coat thin, her hands trembling. She couldn't have been more than 30. Her name, he would soon learn, was Maya Reynolds. Her eyes darted between passing cars and the bus stop across the street. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I don't usually ask strangers, but my son, he's sick. I just need help getting to the hospital." Daniel's first instinct was caution. Life had taught him to guard what little he had left. His wallet held just enough cash for groceries and a bus pass for Emily. The rent deadline loomed like a shadow. But then he heard the break in her voice. "I missed the last bus," Maya whispered. "I've been walking since dawn." Across the street, traffic thickened. A city bus roared past, sunlight flashing across its windows. Daniel felt that familiar tightening in his chest, the one he used to feel before stepping into danger when instinct outweighed fear. He looked at Maya, then at the road, then back at the park bench where he'd been sitting. "I can drive you," he said. Maya blinked. "You don't have to." "I know," Daniel replied gently, "but I can." His old sedan waited nearby, paint faded, engine temperamental but faithful. As they drove through the city, skyscrapers gave way to quieter streets. Helicopters thumped faintly in the distance, lifting toward the lakefront, a reminder of a city always in motion. At the hospital, Daniel walked Maya to the entrance. Her son was already inside, being treated by nurses. She turned to Daniel, eyes wet. "I don't know how to thank you." Daniel shook his head. "You don't have to." He left before she could say more, before gratitude could become a burden. Only when he reached his car did he realize the cost. His gas gauge hovered near empty. His wallet was lighter. Somehow, in the rush, he had given Maya the last of his cash for parking and food, and his phone buzzed with a voicemail he hadn't expected. "Mr. Carter," the message said, "this is regarding your apartment. If payment isn't made by Friday, we'll have to proceed." Daniel leaned back against his car, the hospital towering above him. The weight of his choice settled in. He had answered without hesitation. And now he would pay the price. The days that followed were harder than Daniel expected. Chicago's weather turned cold, the kind that seeps into your bones. Daniel picked up temporary work wherever he could, loading supplies from trucks, cleaning storefronts at night, helping a mechanic friend for cash. He rode buses across the city, watching neighborhoods blur past the window, wondering how close he was to losing everything. Emily noticed. "Daddy," she asked one evening as they walked through a small neighborhood park, "are we okay?" Daniel stopped under a row of trees glowing with autumn leaves. A motorcycle passed on the street nearby, its engine echoing briefly before fading. "We are," he said softly. "We always are." but inside doubt grew louder. On Thursday afternoon, Daniel returned to Grant Park, hopping for clarity the way he once hoped for calm before a mission. Families sat on blankets. Tourists took photos near Buckingham Fountain. Life went on, unaware of the quiet battles around it. That's when he heard his name. Daniel. He turned. Maya stood a few steps away, her face brighter, steadier. Beside her was a small boy holding a toy helicopter, spinning its blades happily. "My son Lucas," she said. "He's better thanks to you." Daniel smiled, relieved. "I'm glad." Maya hesitated, then continued. "I've been looking for you. I didn't even get your number that day." Daniel shrugged. "I come here sometimes." She took a breath. "I want you to know your help changed more than that morning." She explained that she worked as a coordinator for a local nonprofit that supported veterans and struggling families. The day Daniel helped her, she had been rushing between responsibilities, overwhelmed and alone. His kindness, no questions, no judgment, had stayed with her. "You reminded me why I do what I do," Maya said. Daniel listened politely, not expecting more. Then she handed him a folded paper. "It's a job referral," she said. "Facilities management at the community center. They value veterans, it's stable, benefits included." Daniel stared at the paper, afraid to hope. "I can't promise anything," Maya added, "but I can promise they'll listen." A city bus slowed nearby, doors opening with a familiar hiss. Daniel felt something loosen inside him. "Thank you," he said quietly. The interview came quickly. The manager, an older man named Robert Hayes, shook Daniel's hand firmly. "We don't just hire skills," Robert said. "We hire character." A week later, Daniel signed his employment papers. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest. The first paycheck arrived just in time to stop the eviction process. That evening, Daniel and Emily walked through their neighborhood park, lights glowing softly along the path. "You seem happier," Emily said, swinging his hand. Daniel smiled. "Sometimes doing the right thing feels heavy at first." "But then," she asked. "But then," he said, "it finds its way back to you." Above them, a helicopter crossed the sky, lights blinking against the night. Daniel watched it disappear, thinking of how small acts could rise far beyond their moment. He had paid a price, but he had also planted something deeper than fear. Months later, winter softened into spring. Grant Park bloomed again. Tulips lined the walkways and laughter returned to the benches. Daniel often brought Emily there on weekends. Sometimes they watched buses glide past. Sometimes they just sat and listened to the city breathe. Daniel never told Emily the full story. He didn't want his kindness to sound like sacrifice. To him, it was simply duty, something learned long before the uniform came off. One afternoon, Daniel volunteered at the community center. Families filled the gym. Children rode scooters outside, their wheels clicking on concrete. Maya passed by with Lucas, waving. "Dad," Emily asked, watching them, "why do you help people even when it's hard?" Daniel thought for a long moment. "Because someone once helped me," he said. "And because the world doesn't change in big moments alone, it changes in quiet ones." Daniel's life wasn't perfect. Bills still arrived. Worries still came. But something had shifted. He no longer measured wealth by what he had, but by what he gave without losing himself. The city moved around him, cars, buses, motorbikes, voices, footsteps, all part of a shared rhythm. Somewhere between concrete and sky, kindness traveled faster than fear. And that single moment in the park, when a stranger needed help, continued to echo. Dear viewers, stories like Daniel's remind us that kindness is not always easy and it is never free. Sometimes it costs comfort, sometimes certainty, and sometimes peace of mind. But what it gives back is far greater: hope, connection, and the quiet strength to keep going. If this story touched your heart, Please comment below and share what kindness means to you. If you believe small acts can change lives, like this video and share it with your friends. And if you want more real, inspiring stories like this, subscribe to our channel Kindness Quest. Your support helps these stories travel further, just like kindness itself. Thank you for watching.